a good friend of ours. Let's go to the Mays Landing Buffalo Wild Wings Sports Hotline and welcome into the locker room, Kerry Huffman. What's up, Huff?
Hey guys, how you doing?
All right, man. Huff, it's been a long time. I haven't talked to you in a little while. And Scooter tells me he keeps in touch with you.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Pretty regularly.
The last time I saw you, Huff, I told Scooter we're driving down here today.
Oh boy.
Last time I saw you was in an Eagles game, and this had to be like about 5 years ago. I was sitting in the section, and you come walking up. I guess you sat a couple rows in front of me, and that's the last time I saw you.
Yeah, I think I was there that day with my nephew in town visiting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Huff, man, you're now coaching the Phantoms, and you had a long career. You played with the Flyers. You had a long career. You played from 1987 to 1998, so you saw a lot of action. And you played on a team with a bunch of great guys. That's for sure. We know all these guys. But Huff, I was asking Scooter, as a player, what's the hardest transition it is to becoming a coach?
Well, I think one of the things that you don't realize, like when you're a player, you're really isolated in terms of just focusing on your own game, and you're sort of locked in your own world. And when you get into the coaching world, you sort of realize there's a lot of different things, a lot of different concerns and areas that you have to focus on, and specifically not just one individual game. It's sort of the whole group, and it's a lot more of a management job than just managing one body, for sure.
We're talking with Kerry Huffman, former Flyer defenseman number 5, and of course he's assistant coaching with the Phantoms. And another thing that we were talking about on the way today, it's a shame. Sam Moran, man, he got hurt again. It's just this guy can't catch a break, can he?
Yeah, it's real tough for Sammy. He was
what happened?
He was doing really well. He just kind of wrenched his knee and ended up re-tearing his ACL, the same knee that he had just had surgically done over a year ago. So really tough break for him. He's a great kid, and it's really unfortunate. I think he had the first couple of years here in Lehigh, I don't think he missed a game. I think he played 100 and 30 some odd straight games, and we never had a problem with injuries. And then all of a sudden, the last couple of years, he had that string, and he's going to unfortunately have to go through it here again.
Big boy too, man. We were at practice. Scotty McKay and Scooter and I were at practice, and he comes off the ice. He's a pretty big, intimidating dude, man. It's a shame, but injuries are part of the game. Yeah,
it is. And like I said, he's just a real good kid, real good person, and tough to see him going through this again, for sure.
Hey, Huffer, Scotty.
Hey, Scotty.
Listen, we've been talking today about the way the world is today and how it's changed, but give us kind of an idea. You got drafted when you were 18 years old. You came in and you pretty much kind of played right away. And what's the transition to going from juniors or the AHL, or what's the transition getting into the pros and changing the game at such a young age? Because the Flyers have 5 guys, defensemen, that are 24 years and younger. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and it's obviously the game's changed a little bit in terms of the salary cap and those things that are in play right now. And there's a lot of pressure on teams to get young players in playing on entry-level contracts in terms of the financial end of it, so they can basically manage their cap a little bit better with some younger players. So there's an emphasis on getting the kids ready and getting them ready as quickly as they can, and have them set. And the kids are so well coached nowadays in terms of, by the time we get them, that a lot of them have had skills coaches, fitness coaches, mental coaches, just a lot of really high-end coaching. So
you could have used that, Huff.
Yeah, I know. I wish we had that. But anyways, they're very, very well prepared by the time we get them or the Flyers get them. So there's a lot there to work with, for sure.
Well, another point I have, and we always bring this up when we talk about this, as today's game, or even the Flyers or the Phantoms of today versus the past in the 80s when you played. I mean, I always felt that when I watched, I was around you guys a lot in the mid 80s to 90s, and I saw a team built of veteran players and then the young kids that really wanted to win. You know, you had the McCrimmons, the Howells, the Poulins, the Props Kerrs, you know, and as veteran leaders, and then you had guys like yourself and Talk and Peter Zezel and Derek Smith and Ronnie Sutter and guys like that came in but had that same mentality, like we want to win now, and let's do this right away. It doesn't seem like the Flyers quite have that core as much, and I think the salaries have changed a lot of that. I think when some guys leave the rink at night, they go left, and some guys go right, and some guys go straight, where I remember you guys all hanging together as a team and bonded well and made the success of those teams in the 80s.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I know that, thinking back on it in terms of even the teams I've been around that I've either coached or played on, that Flyer team from the late 80s, it was sort of a real culture, like you said, the leadership, the veteran guys that, had been there for quite a while. There was a lot less player movement at that time as well. So I think it's harder to build that culture as strong as the Flyers had it at that point. It's just a lot more challenging with the amount of player movement and, like you said, how the salary cap comes into play with a lot of things. So, it's changed for sure. There's different challenges, but that's, the fun part of coaching is to try to take those experiences that you've had. And I think of that team quite often. And that's the kind of culture you want to have with any team that you coach, for sure.
We're talking with Kerry Huffman, former Flyer defenseman, and of course now he's an assistant coach with the Phantoms. And Huff, it's always amazing to me. I'm going to ask you, did you ever think that you'd see Craig Berube win the Stanley Cup as a coach?
Never a doubt in my mind.
When we had Chief on last summer, and I said to him, at the end of the conversation, I said, Chief, what's more surprising? You won the Stanley Cup as a head coach, or Billy's got a radio show?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
It's funny. Craig was my very first roommate in my very first training camp. And just think back from those days and all the way from that, and then getting to see him this summer. I visited him there when he had the cup in Doylestown here, so I got to see him. And you're right, it's been a long journey for him for sure. But good on him. He's a great person.
Huff, a lot of the guys, not a lot, some of the guys that you played with from that team are Talk, coaching, Huff. You guys are all in the coaching.
Scotty Mellenby's assistant GM.
You all guys
have stayed in the game.
Yeah, stayed around the game, and that doesn't surprise me for the character of those guys that you played with.
Yeah, and I think we all pulled some great tactics from Mike Keenan.
Yeah, right.
I think that's listen, we had a good group of guys, and there were some, like I said, we talked earlier, some great leaders, and like I said, I think a lot of guys learned a tremendous amount from being involved in that group for as many years as we were.
Hey, Huff, all the coaches that you had, all through juniors, the NHL, the players that you have, what do? You take a little piece of things that you've seen and that you've learned, coaching styles, and put it into your how you coach and some of how you handle
philosophy.
Your philosophy.
Yeah, I think that's what I do. I can't really speak for everybody else as coaches, but I sort of look back on it and like you said, think of some of the things, the positive things from each person, and try to apply that way. I know the type of coaches I liked and worked well with, and that's sort of my philosophy in terms of how I deal with the young guys, and especially the young defensemen here.
So, Scooter, we've all heard the stories of how Keenan ruled with an iron fist. Is that possible with today's athlete?
No. No.
Are you sure?
Mike has a reputation, obviously, of being very, very tough and very demanding. But Mike was also just so smart and a really good game coach, and decisions he would make on the bench in terms of matchups and things, I think were pretty underrated. He obviously has had a lot of success and wherever he's been, but in terms of dealing with the younger players now and sort of their makeup and their attitudes, it's pretty difficult to be that way all the time with them now. That's for sure.
I remember he used to ride you guys when you won, and he would kind of lay off a little bit when you lost. And I was like,
it's kind of in reverse.
It's
right?
interesting.
Yeah.
It's in reverse, but it's interesting. Maybe that's the way that new age things have gone. But I'll never forget there was a game you guys were losing like 4-0 going into the third period. Of course, I was waiting in ovations after the game for you guys to come out so we could go have some water and milk. And you guys came back and scored 5 goals in the third period and won 5-4. I'm like, this is perfect. They're going to come out. Keenan's going to be happy. They're going to be a great game. He buries you guys after the game. I remember everybody coming out of the locker room with their heads down, like we can't even go out. We got to go home. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That was a tremendous win. So he had a different philosophy, but it seemed to work. So.
Yeah, you were always on your toes. You never really knew each day coming to practice what it was going to be like. So, part of that, I guess, worked in the sense of keeping everybody a little bit on edge and sharp. So, it worked. He got a lot out of his teams when he had them, that's for sure.
Sure did.
Hey, Huff, man, listen, we're going to let you go. It was great catching up with you, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know you just got done practice, and good luck the rest of the way. Of course, Scotty McKay says you got to ride buses now as opposed to taking the jet, the flights to games.
Yeah, but it's not bad. It's a pretty nice bus. I've been on word.
Beautiful.
All right, Huff, man, we'll talk to you again. Thanks a lot. Good luck.
All right, thanks, Huff.
Great catching up.
There's Kerry Huffman on the Mays Landing Buffalo Wild Wings Sports Hotline.